Everybody, this is Dream, and today we have 4 game slate here. I'm going to do this video a little bit different. It's going to have DraftKings and FanDuel stuff in here. I'm going to do the first half with DraftKings and the second half with FanDuel. So if you want to skip ahead, if you're just playing FanDuel, you can just find in the video where, probably about halfway, where it's going to switch, and you're going to see the screen change because, DraftKings has a nice black interface and FanDuel has a light blue one. So you'll be able to see where I transition over to that pretty easily. Let's go ahead and get started the injury report, though. Can you guys smash that like and subscribe button? Also, let me know if you like me doing the 2 separate videos or just like this regular 1 video. I haven't really done it this way before, but I kind of want to try it because I think it would make it a little bit easier for me to get more content out, especially when I've been sick and stuff like that. So let me know what you think. So let's go ahead and get started with the injury report here. For the Nets, Claxton is questionable. For the 76ers, Embiid, Maxey, and Harden are out. For Harris is also probable. And then for the Grizzlies, Morant is questionable. Bane is out. For the Pistons, Cunningham is out. Stewart is out. And Bay is out. For the Nuggets, Jokic is doubtful. Murray is doubtful. Gordon is questionable. And Highland is probable. For the Lakers, Davis is probable. And LeBron is questionable. For the Suns, Chris Paul and Cam Johnson are both out. So quite a few injuries for a small little slate like this, but overall we still have some players that we do like. So let's go ahead and get into what we do like here. So we're going to start with Shake Milton for Philadelphia, who should be starting. He's been playing a lot of minutes the last 2 games. He's done pretty well. His price has obviously shot up quite a bit, but he has upside in the matchup, especially with all the guys out. And he should have an ability to play 30 to 35 minutes and score plenty of fantasy points to take care of his price today. Probably one of the only guys that I don't feel like are overpriced on this entire slate, to be honest. Bones Highland's another guy I like here. He's at $6,700. His price has shot up pretty good. But he still has upside at this price. Not nearly as much as he's had, but with all the injuries, if Jokic is out, he'd be a guy that I would still probably put in my lineup. But Jokic is questionable, but he's unlikely to play. But just make sure to check that when we get closer to time. Bruce Brown, he's another guy that from the Nuggets I kind of like today. Price is not ideal. It is popped up some, but he still has upside in this matchup. However, he does have tendency to have, really bad games, even with the big amount of minutes. That also holds true for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope here for Denver as well, who can play big minutes and just not score much, which is why his price is a lot lower, but he does have upside here, especially in this nice matchup against Detroit with all their injuries. So, both these teams just have tons of injuries. Then we're going to look at Alec Burks here, who has a pretty good price point for what he can do. He's only played a handful of games so far, but his minutes seem to be stabilizing some, and if that's the case, then he'll have some upside in this matchup, especially with all the guys out for them. Then we're looking at the forwards. We're going to look at Michael Porter Jr. He's an interesting play. He hasn't been very good the last few games. He's had a couple good games. Theoretically, he should get more minutes, but again, he's just another player for Denver who seems like half their team is this way, where they are very inconsistent, but they also have lots of upside, so especially in a plus matchup. Torrey Craig for Phoenix has been playing really well with Cam Johnson out. His minutes hold close to 25 to 30, and he's been doing pretty solid. His price has come up, but he still has some value on the slate at the price point he's at. Tobias Harris is a guy I do like okay. If he ends up playing, his price isn't ideal. It's shot up a lot because of the injuries, and he's been inconsistent lately just because of his own health and stuff. But I still think that he's a viable option, especially if you need to pay up for somebody on the slate. Then we'll look at Bojan Bogdanovic. He's probably one of the safer plays in my view, with all the injuries to the Pistons and the fact that it looks like Jokic won't play. And so the top 2 defensive players on Denver won't be playing likely. He's going to have some upside in this matchup, and he's been pretty good lately. He's not a perfect play because his price has popped up a lot, but I still think he's viable on the slate. And then Jaren Jackson Jr., he's an interesting option today for Memphis, considering the fact that he's been playing only 2 games so far and played 25 minutes. But as you can see, his price point has come up some, but he has some upside with his, especially in this matchup against Sacramento. Then we'll look at DeAndre Jordan here. Now, he's pretty inexpensive, but I don't love him because he will start, but his minutes usually are kind of capped. He did play more minutes against Dallas, but I kind of don't expect that in this matchup. But we'll have to kind of, he's somebody I don't like to roster just because he doesn't have a lot of upside most of the time. DeAndre Ayton, he is my favorite center on the slate, just for when it comes to, why can I not? Ayton, there we go. He is one of the guys I like the most. He's been playing more with, and doing better with Chris Paul out. He's getting more touches that way. He's still going to be a victim of the Suns being wonky with minutes sometimes, but theoretically he should play more going up against the Lakers, so I do like him on the slate, and he's probably my favorite center overall. But you can also look at Jalen Duren for Detroit. Now, he hasn't been starting, he's been coming off the bench, but he's been pretty stable in his few games without Stewart, and he has some upside, so I think he's somebody to take a look at, but he's kind of a secondary play. So that's what I have for DraftKings. It's a very small slate. It's going to be hard to make really good, it's kind of hard to find a lot of good value here. It's also it's kind of hard to decide between all the expensive guys. So, because the matchups are just kind of wonky and not ideal. Also, just a ton of injuries today that we have to consider. And if you look at the all here, obviously you see all the guys over $10,000. All but one of them are questionable or out. Like, that's crazy. It doesn't happen very often. So with that said, that's what I've got for DraftKings. Now let's go over to FanDuel, and I'm going to show you that here. So for FanDuel, of course, we already went through the injury report. So if you missed that, go back to the beginning of the video, and you can watch that before you get to FanDuel. But with that said, here's the FanDuel look. We're going to start with point guards. We have Bones Highland, who, if he ends up playing, he should be a viable option on the slate. He's been really solid with Murray out, and I think he's got some upside in this matchup. Then we'll look at Shake Milton for Philadelphia. His price point has popped up some, but he's still viable on the slate, especially if he can get a big amount of minutes with all the injuries. Alec Burks is another guy I like here for Detroit against Denver. He has some upside because of his price, and he's been pretty consistent lately. He had one bad game, I think, since he's been playing more minutes. Then we'll look at Bruce Brown for Denver as well. He's very inconsistent, but he has some upside with the matchup, and his price is pretty fair here. Jaden Ivey is somebody that you got to take a look at here on FanDuel. His price point has come up some, but it's not so overpriced that he can't make it work, but he's not super ideal. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is not ideal, obviously, because he's very inconsistent, but he should get a full run of minutes, and he does have the ability to get there sometimes. And then Booker, he's probably one of my favorite expensive plays here on DraftKings, simply because of the matchup. And even though he's had some up and down games with Chris Paul out, he should get a lot of run and a lot of opportunity to have a big game here. Bojan Bogdanovic is actually quite a bit cheaper here on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings, and he's one of my favorite plays on FanDuel. Again, I don't love anybody because I feel like everybody's overpriced, but some slates this is that way, and he is viable on this one, though. Michael Porter Jr. for Denver, assuming, again, that Jokic is out, he's going to be somebody to take a look at. He is inconsistent, but he does have high upside in certain situations, and this is one of those. Mikal Bridges, he's for Phoenix. He's another guy I do like. Pretty good. He's been playing well lately. He's had a couple off games, but he's actually priced pretty reasonably on FanDuel for his potential. Tobias Harris is a guy I kind of like okay today, assuming he ends up playing. He didn't play last couple games, but if he does play and he is set to play full complement of minutes, the offense will run through him. And then at the center positions, right now I have DeAndre Ayton for Phoenix, who has some of the best upside on the slate from the center position, even though he is risky because his price is pretty high here on FanDuel. Then I also like Steven Adams. Okay, he's been very inconsistent, but he has some upside in this matchup, and his price point is pretty cheap. You just have to be aware that sometimes he has sub 15 fantasy point games. Just depends on how the minutes go. But against the Kings, he should get a decent amount of run. So with that said, that's what I have for this slate. I think we have two really good slates for DraftKings and FanDuel. It's going to be hard to make great lineups because, well, there's just no super good value plays, I don't think, or it's not even ideal from the expensive guys simply because so many guys are hurt. And there's a lot of injuries we have to take a look at. Make sure to check out the Discord, the link is in the description here. You'll see that we have lots of NBA news and stuff in here that we can get up-to-date information for these injuries and stuff, and we just have a general chat and everything else, and we have lineup discussion and place to post your wins. We do some prize pick stuff occasionally and other stuff, and I also post some other things in there as well for for fantasy in general. So feel free to jump in and check that stuff out. Make sure to like and comment and subscribe, and have a nice day, guys.